In the shadow of World War II's unresolved ghosts, two Asian giants stand on the brink. China has issued a stark ultimatum to Japan. Retract your threats over Taiwan, or face strong and resolute countermeasures. The world watches as Beijing draws a red line in the sand. But what sparked this firestorm? And could it drag the globe into chaos? Welcome to Global Flashpoint. Today, we dive deep into the escalating military movements, dissect the intricate web of geopolitics, and explore the high-stakes implications for the Indo-Pacific region. This crisis isn't just about rhetoric. It's a powder keg fueled by historical animosities, strategic rivalries, and the specter of great power conflict. It all ignited on November 7, 2025, in Japan's National Diet, the heart of Tokyo's parliamentary democracy. Newly installed Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, a firebrand nationalist, longtime Taiwan supporter, and architect of Japan's hawkish security policies, dropped a bombshell during a routine question session from opposition lawmaker Katsuya Okada. Responding to queries on collective self-defense, Takaichi declared that a Chinese invasion or naval blockade of Taiwan would constitute an existential crisis for Japan. Under Article 9 of Japan's pacifist constitution, amended in 2015 to allow limited overseas deployments, those words carry profound legal weight. They unlock the Japanese Self-Defense Forces, JSDF, right to intervene militarily, not just in defense of Japan proper, but alongside allies like the United States if the threat imperils the nation's survival. Taiwan's proximity to Japan makes this no abstract concern. The island republic lies just 100 kilometers, barely a 20-minute flight for a fighter jet, from Japan's southwestern Yonaguni Island, part of the strategically vital Ryukyu chain. A Chinese assault on Taiwan could sever Japan's sea lanes, disrupt semiconductor supplies from Taiwan's TSMC, which produces over 90% of the world's advanced chips, and expose Okinawa's U.S. bases to immediate PLA rocket fire. Takaichi's statement wasn't mere bluster. It echoed sentiments from her mentor, the late Shinzo Abe, who in 2021 famously quipped, "A Taiwan emergency is a Japanese emergency." But in 2025, with Takaichi at the helm, it marks a seismic shift from Tokyo's decades-long strategic ambiguity toward Beijing's core interest. For analysts, this is Japan formally linking its fate to Taiwan's, potentially drawing the U.S. Japan alliance into the crosshairs of Xi Jinping's unification ambitions. Beijing's reaction was swift and multifaceted, blending diplomatic fury with economic coercion and military posturing. China didn't wait long to respond. On November 10th, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian excoriated Takaichi's remarks as a gross interference in China's internal affairs and a serious violation of the One China principle. By November 13th, Deputy Foreign Minister Sun Weidong summoned Japan's ambassador, Kenji Kanasugi, to the Foreign Ministry in Beijing for a dressing down that lasted over an hour. Sun demanded an immediate retraction, invoking the 1972 Sino-Japanese Joint Communique, where Tokyo recognized Beijing as the sole legal government of China and acknowledged Taiwan as part of its territory. "Japan must fully repent for its war crimes," Sun thundered, dredging up the ghosts of Imperial Japan's 50-year colonial rule over Taiwan, 1895 to 1945. During which Tokyo exploited the island's resources and conscripted its people into forced labor and military service. Lin Jian, in his daily briefing, ramped up the rhetoric. "Japan must stop playing with fire on the Taiwan question. Those who play with fire will perish by it." This wasn't vague saber-rattling. It was an explicit ultimatum, laced with historical grievance and a warning of resolute countermeasures. As the diplomatic cables burned, China's state media amplified the narrative. The Global Times, Beijing's mouthpiece for wolf warrior diplomacy, ran headlines branding Takaichi a resurgence of fascism, comparing her to wartime ultranationalists who dragged Asia into the Pacific War. On X, formerly Twitter, Consul General Xue Jian in Osaka posted a viral thread accusing Tokyo of summoning militarist demons, which Beijing later defended as personal opinion, but refused to delete despite Japanese protests. This blend of official condemnation and unofficial vitriol is classic CCP playbook. Unify domestic nationalism while signaling resolve abroad. By November 14th, the escalation had reached the United Nations, where Ambassador Fu Kong penned a letter to Secretary General Antonio Guterres accusing Takaichi of a grave violation of international law and vowing China's unwavering defense of sovereignty, including potential armed intervention if provoked. Japan dismissed it as entirely unacceptable, but the UN gambit was a masterstroke, framing Beijing as the defender of post-WU order against Tokyo's alleged revisionism. Words quickly turned to action, and here the military movements come into sharp focus, transforming rhetoric into a tangible show of force. Economically, Beijing twisted the knife first. On November 14th, it issued a travel advisory urging Chinese citizens to avoid Japan, citing deteriorating security, a move that slashed inbound tourism by an estimated 40%, grounding flights and hammering airlines like ANA and JAL. By November 19th, China reimposed a blanket ban on Japanese seafood imports, reviving the 2023 Fukushima wastewater spat that cost Tokyo's fisheries $500 million annually. This wasn't just punishment. It was hybrid warfare, targeting Japan's $300 billion trade surplus with China, its largest partner. Diplomatically, Beijing postponed a trilateral culture ministers meeting with Japan and South Korea, originally set for late November, and at the G20 in Rio, a Chinese delegate lambasted Tokyo as totally unqualified for a permanent UN Security Council seat, citing its militaristic tendencies. But the real escalation unfolded on the waves and in the skies, where military movements painted a picture of brinkmanship teetering on the edge of miscalculation. On November 15th, a suspected PLA drone buzzed between Taiwan and Yonaguni Island, Japan's westernmost outpost, prompting JSDF jets to scramble in a rare peacetime intercept. The next day, November 16th, 4 armed China Coast Guard, CCG vessels, each displacing 12,000 tons and equipped with 76mm deck guns, breached Japan's territorial waters around the Senkaku Islands, a disputed East China Sea chain Tokyo administers, but Beijing claims. This marked the 27th such incursion in 2025 alone, up from 20 in 2024, and came just hours after Takaichi's defiant refusal to retract her statement. Japanese Coast Guard cutters shadowed the intruders for 4 hours, broadcasting warnings in Mandarin, but the CCG ships lingered, broadcasting their own claims of rights enforcement patrols. Beijing didn't stop there. From November 17th to 25th, the PLA Eastern Theater Command launched live fire drills in the East China Sea, just 200 nautical miles from Okinawa, firing artillery salvos and simulating anti-ship strikes with J-15 fighters from the carrier Liaoning. Satellite imagery from Planet Labs showed over 20 PLA Navy, PLAN vessels, including Type 055 destroyers and Y-8 electronic warfare planes, converging on the Miyako Strait, the choke point between Taiwan and Japan's Ryukyus. These weren't routine exercises. They were a direct riposte to Takaichi, designed to test JSDF response times and remind Tokyo of China's anti-access area denial, A2AD, capabilities. PLA Daily, the military's official organ, published an op-ed on November 16th, warning that Japanese intervention in the Taiwan Strait would lead to a path of no return, with total retaliation, including precision strikes on JSDF bases in Okinawa and Kyushu. On X, nationalist accounts amplified this, posting maps of hypothetical PLA rocket barrages overwhelming Japan's Aegis ashore systems. Japan, no longer the passive neighbor of the post-war era, responded in kind, accelerating its own military posture. Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi confirmed on November 24th that plans to deploy a battery of Type 03 Chusam medium-range surface-to-air missiles to Yonaguni Island were steadily moving forward. This 110-kilometer from Taiwan outpost, already home to a JSDF radar station, will host interceptors capable of downing PLA ballistic missiles at 150-kilometer range, part of Tokyo's $43 billion defense buildup under the 2023 National Security Strategy. Koizumi framed it as deterrence for our national interests, but Beijing's foreign ministry slammed it as a deliberate provocation to create regional tension. By November 25th, JSDF P-3C patrol planes were conducting daily overflights of the Senkakus, while U.S. Marine Corps F-35s from Kadena Air Base joined joint exercises in the Philippine Sea, simulating Taiwan Strait scenarios. These movements underscore Japan's pivot, from constitutional pacifism to active deterrence, with missile deployments projected to cover 1,500 kilometers by 2027, reaching deep into Fujian province. On social media, the digital frontlines erupted into a proxy war. Posts from Chinese users warned of unleashing hell if Japan crossed the strait, with hashtags like #JapanFascismRevived trending in Mandarin. Japanese netizens countered with memes of PLA carriers rusting in port, invoking the 2013 Senkaku nationalization crisis. One viral thread from @DefenseIndex tallied the CCG incursions, garnering 100,000 views and sparking debates on whether Tokyo should declare an Air Defense Identification Zone, ADIZ, over the Senkakus. Myanmar's junta even weighed in, with Deputy Information Minister Zhao Min-tun telling Xinhua that Takaichi showed no remorse for WEP2 crimes, piling on Beijing's isolation campaign. Then came the wild card, Donald Trump, whose America First unpredictability could tip the scales. On November 24th, Xi Jinping, breaking decades of protocol, initiated a rare direct call to the U.S. president from Zhongnanhai, framing Taiwan as post-Welvu victory fruit against fascism and militarism. Analysts interpret this as a sly repositioning, casting the U.S. as China's Welvu ally against Japanese revanchism, subtly urging Trump to rein in Takaichi. Xi's pitch aligned with Beijing's narrative that Tokyo's hawks threatened the 1945 Potsdam Order, where Japan relinquished Taiwan to China. Hours later, Trump returned the favor, dialing Takaichi directly. She confirmed tight coordination on regional security, but dodged specifics on Taiwan, calling it diplomacy in action. On X, speculation ran wild. @Mario Nawfal posted that Xi's outreach was war prep via Washington, while think tanks like the Hudson Institute warned of a fractured alliance if Trump prioritizes trade deals over treaty commitments. Geopolitically, this crisis is a microcosm of the Indo-Pacific's fracturing order. At its core, it's a clash of visions. Beijing's community of shared future, a Sino-centric sphere where Taiwan's reunification is non-negotiable, versus Washington's free and open Indo-Pacific, anchoring Japan, Australia, India, and the Philippines in a lattice of minilaterals like the Quad and AUKUS. China's ultimatum isn't isolated. It's part of a broader coercion strategy. Since 2022, PLA ADIZ violations around Taiwan have surged 50%, with 1,700 incursions in 2024 alone. The November drills echoed joint sword exercises post-Pelosi's 2022 visit, but now target Japan directly, signaling that Xi views Tokyo as the weak link in the U.S. chain. Economically, Beijing wields asymmetry. China absorbs 22% of Japan's exports. Yet Tokyo's diversification via CPTPP and India deals mitigates this. From a realist lens, this is Thucydides' trap incarnate. A rising power. China, GDP $18 trillion. Challenging a status quo guardian. U.S. Japan alliance. But layers complicate it. Historical memory fuels Beijing's outrage. Takaichi's Yasukuni shrine visits evoke Nanjing 1937. While Tokyo fears demographic decline, Japan's population shrinks 0.5% yearly. Demands alliances for survival. The U.S. factor is pivotal. Trump's praise for Xi as a friend contrasts Biden's 2021 Taiwan defense pledge, creating ambiguity that emboldens Beijing. Regionally, South Korea treads neutrality, wary of Dokdo disputes, while the Philippines bolsters EDCA bases amid Scarborough Shoal harassment. Globally, the UN letter pressures neutrals like ASEAN to affirm one China, fracturing multilateralism. Militarily, the balance tilts toward deterrence, but risks flashpoints. The PLA's 2 million-strong force boasts 370 ships and 2,000-plus aircraft, with hypersonic DF-17 missiles that could saturate Japan's defenses in hours. Yet amphibious invasion remains a 2027-plus prospect. Taiwan's porcupine strategy, stingers, harpoons, and U.S. 7th Fleet carriers deter it. Japan's JSDF, lean at 240,000 personnel, excels in quality. F-35 stealth fighters and V-22 Ospreys enable rapid Ryukyu reinforcement. A Taiwan war simulation by CSIS in 2023 predicted U.S. Japan victory, but at Pyrrhic cost. 10,000 American casualties. Okinawa devastated. Recent movements amplify this. PLA barges tested in August 2025 signal sea lift experiments, while Japan's Yonaguni missiles close the A2-AD gap. So what happens next? Let's game out the scenarios with geopolitical precision. Scenario 1. De-escalation through back channels. Takaichi softens public rhetoric, perhaps framing her stance as defensive coordination with Washington, while she claims a propaganda win. Flights resume by December, trilateral talks with Seoul restart, and the 1972 accord holds. Trump brokers this, trading Taiwan restraint for trade concessions. Probability, 60% per Brookings analysts, as mutual economic interdependence, bilateral trade $350 billion, outweighs bravado. But it requires face-saving. Beijing pockets retractions. Tokyo bolsters quietly. Scenario 2. Managed escalation, gray zone grind. China sustains CCG patrols and ADIZ probes. Japan mirrors with submarine shadowing and ADIZ expansions. Economic sanctions linger. Seafood bans extend to autos, eroding trust. Ryukyu independence whispers, amplified by Global Times op-eds, stoke Okinawa unrest. U.S. Task Force Philippines, launched October 2025, draws Manila closer, encircling China. Probability, 30%. This boiling frog risks accidents, a drone collision or fishery skirmish spirals, as in 2010's Senkaku trawler clash. Scenario 3. Hot conflict, the nightmare path. A misfired J-20 missile hits a JSDF patrol. Tokyo invokes collective defense. U.S. carriers surge. PLA blockades Bashi Channel. JSDF missiles strike Fujian ports. Global markets crater. Nikkei down 20%, Shanghai 15%, as supply chains snap. Allies fracture. India stays neutral. Europe sanctions half-heartedly. Probability, 10%, but rising with Xi's 2027 PLA modernization deadline. CSES war games show China seizing Taiwan in weeks, but at 50,000 casualties. U.S. bases in Japan ruined. China's message remains unequivocal. Taiwan is a core interest, non-negotiable red line. As Mao Ning reiterated on November 21st, we will never allow external forces to lay hands on China's Taiwan region. Japan vows resolve, with Koizumi echoing Takaichi. We stand ready to protect our survival. Beijing's spokespeople repeat the mantra, correct your wrongdoing, or bear the consequences. The clock is ticking toward APEC in December, where Xi and Takaichi may cross paths. Will cooler heads, perhaps via ASEAN mediation, prevail, restoring fragile equilibrium? Or does history repeat in flames, with the Taiwan Strait as the next psalm? This crisis tests not just bilateral ties, but the post-war order's resilience. Deeper geopolitics reveal a zero-sum struggle. China's Belt and Road hegemony versus Japan's quality infrastructure counter-narrative, with semiconductors as the Maginot Line. This is Global Flashpoint. We've unpacked the movements, the maneuvers, the motives. Stay vigilant. Subscribe for updates as Asia's fault lines shift. What's your take? Detente or detonation? Comment below. The Indo-Pacific's future hangs in the balance.